Hello there everybody, this is Getty92. I've just seen the first two episodes of the Kenobi series on Disney Plus, and we have to talk about this. A little thing at the beginning here. There were heavy spoiler alerts in here, so if you haven't seen the two episodes from Kenobi already, you better go now to Disney Plus and check them out. So 3, 2, 1, go. Hello there Star Wars fans. We are now in that secret circle of all that Star Wars fans around the world, and I'm sure you've seen the first two episodes of Kenobi on Disney Plus, and I consider myself heavily a Star Wars fan. I'm 29 years old, have been a Star Wars fan since 1999, which makes it 23 years already that I've been into Star Wars, and the journey is not over. We are still on that journey. First movie I saw in the cinema was Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Of course, I saw 7, 8, 9, Solo and Rogue One, but that's a topic for another video, and you guys know it. But we're all here to celebrate the new Kenobi series on Disney Plus, and let me start actually with the characters. And we were so wrong on some certain characters there. First of all, let's talk about the three Inquisitors, the Inquisitor trio, as I would call them now. The first guy, that Belder Conehead guy, you know, where the internet was arguing about, well, that's not how that kind of like race looks like. Fix that, please, Star Wars, please do fix that. It's nothing like in Episode 3. But that character, he's so powerful, he's so awesome. Of course, he probably dies, we are not sure yet. We will check that out in Episode 3, I assume, from the Kenobi series, or maybe number 4. We have to see how that goes. But he suddenly reminded me of Voldemort the first time when he was in that kind of like bar restaurant thing where that first Jedi there was discovered. Oh yeah, we have a new Jedi, but apparently he dies. Which is a cool thing actually, because he has nothing actually to bring into that series, but it was a cool thing to see that there are still Jedis alive, you know? Because everyone thought all of the Jedis would have died after Order 66, but some of them were still alive, and that's cool to see actually. So that Belder Conehead guy from the Inquisitors, the Grand Inquisitor, he's a great character. I really love his parts so far. But let's get into the whole thing that blew up the community totally about the sister. The third sister, is she the third sister of the Inquisitors? I mean, everybody was arguing, well, that is a strong female leading role and we don't want to see that because this has nothing to do with Kenobi. But apparently we didn't know the backstory of a character, but now we know, and it's just phenomenal how that character is again portrayed on the 2 episodes from the Kenobi series, because she acts like a real hunter. She somehow reminds me of bounty hunters, but with the lightsaber and on the dark side, and it's just phenomenal what she's bringing to the series already, and that's just a cool thing, and I'm really looking forward to see more of her in the future episodes, because I do believe she's a strong character, but not a strong female leading character in a series. No, she has her thing, she knows what she wants to do, she wants to get Kenobi, she wants to kill him, and that's just a cool thing, and I'm looking forward to that. And the third Inquisitor guy, he looks kind of like Asian to me with his head thing going on, that kind of like reminded me of the first drawings when they were doing Star Wars in 77 back in those days, about the original drawings on some things, and that kind of like reminded me of the original drawings from the original Darth Vader design. You know, when they were still doing the research in the Japanese stuff of the samurais and stuff like that. And that reminded me on that third Inquisitor guy. And he is kind of like, he's a bloke, you know, he's just a dude, he wants to get his job done. He doesn't care about why the mission is the mission, he just wants to get shit done. That's a cool character, just love it. And then all of a sudden, in one of the first scenes, and we will talk about the first scene in the Jedha Temple, but one of the first scenes where we were introduced to a certain character, nobody actually was talking about that character. It is the sister of Luke Skywalker, it's Leia Organa. And I mean, she's 10 years old in that scenes that she was in. She got captured, and you know that, guys, I'm not going to repeat the story of what we've seen in the 2 episodes. But she really brought some refreshness to the table that reminded me of Episode 1. after I saw episode 1 with all those childishness, as I would call, with Anakin back in episode 1, that was really refreshing. It paid a real cool tribute. The character of Leia Organa in this series paid a real cool tribute, actually, as far as I'm concerned, to episode 1. At least episode 1. That was a cool thing. And then we have, of course, Luke Skywalker, which was not shown very often in that, but he behaved, you know, that scenes where he was running away from Owen Lars and his wife, and that just got me into thinking, exactly, that's the Luke Skywalker that we know from episode 4, actually. Because in episode 4, Luke Skywalker wasn't really paying attention to Uncle Owen, and, you know, he behaved like in Kenobi. And in Kenobi, he behaved exactly like in episode 4, but in Kenobi, he was just a young boy, and that was really cool portrayed. Even that just tiny scene where he was just kind of like running away because he wanted to be a speeding champion there on that is just an amazing. So Luke Skywalker is an amazing character in there as well. It's a minor character, it's a child, almost nobody will care in the future about that, but think about episode 4, about how Luke actually behaves to Uncle Owen and his aunt, and that's what we are just seeing there again in Kenobi. So that's cool. So then we have Owen. He's kind of like the pissed guy, and I don't really understand why. Well, obviously he explains because of Anakin, and Obi-Wan screwed it up a few times with Anakin back in episode 3. I do understand that, but when looking back at the end of episode 3, it all looks so beautiful. You know, when Obi-Wan gave Luke to Owen and his aunt, and it just seemed to me so harmonized there in episode 3 at the end, even though the bad guys have won, all the Jedis are dead, and mostly it's because of the fault of Obi-Wan himself. To a certain degree, it is his fault, you can't deny it, but you can blame it on Qui-Gon. Oh yeah, Qui-Gon started it. But I didn't understand so clearly why Owen was the way Owen was in the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, although I do understand the background of that. Bail Organa is back, and I mean, he's one of those characters in episode 3 again in Revenge of the Sith that I just happened to like to watch him act, and because he's just a tiny seconds in episode 3, it's just the thing that he creates there with his character that we likely don't know the character. We will know in the future, or we already knew at that point that he was the stepfather for Leia, but we didn't really care about that, and it was really refreshing to see him again in the episodes of Kenobi, and that's just a cool thing to see, because I do really like this actor. Don't know his name, that's why I'm not throwing any actor names in here, because there were so many new actors there. But Bail Organa, he really nails it, and he's exactly like the guy that I would expect to, like how he behaves, for example, in front of Leia when they were two alone, and when Leia was running again outside of the castle, building, house, whatever that is, temple maybe. And but he's a human inside, you know, he's not that senator, not that strict politician there. He has a real soul inside of himself, and that's what he's just showing to a 10-year-old Leia Organa that we happen to see, and she's just amazing. Even though she's a little bitch, she's kind of a bitch in episode, or in the second thing of Kenobi, in the second part, she kind of like acts like a bitch, but that's okay. That's Leia. She always was kind of like, aren't you too short to be in Stormtrooper stuff? You know it, guys. And then we have, of course, Ben Kenobi. And I told you at the beginning of the video that I watched certain parts of episode 8 actually after I finished episode 1 and 2 from the Kenobi series, because I wanted to see again how Luke Skywalker actually acted as a pissed off guy when he was meeting Rey, and Rey was following him around on this, and he drank that milk, you know, that guy's that blue titty milk, and somehow Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series at the beginning especially, he reminded me from his acting thing and from his character settings that they were paying a little tribute maybe to episode 8, to a pissed off Luke Skywalker, and that was actually pretty cool to see, because Kenobi, as far as I'm concerned, Kenobi combines all of the trilogies into one cool thing, and that's just a lovely, lovely thing there to see. Now let's talk about the plot in general, about what Kenobi, the 2 episodes that we already have seen, what is it all about? First of all, let's begin with the flashback of episode 1, 2 and 3. Right there at the beginning, the first 3 minutes of the Kenobi series, they were just mesmerizing. It got me some tears in my eyes actually, because I got reminded how beautiful, cool and creative episode 1, 2 and 3 were, and they just captured all of that coolest images of how Anakin was growing up, what happened in that meantime until episode 1, from episode 1 until episode 3, and it was just cool to see that flashback, because we already sensed that we have maybe to watch episode 3 again to get to know what actually could have happened after the ending of episode 3, to get a better understanding of the Kenobi series. But you don't have to do it, because Kenobi, right there in the first 3 minutes, they offer what episode 1, 2 and 3 were about. They give a real cool recap, and then we get into that scene with the Jedi Temple getting attacked and all of those Jedis that they were alive that we don't know the names of, but it's not bad because we don't care obviously, but the images were spitting awesome. They were so cool. I mean, that was really like, it reminded me of The Mandalorian, and then we have another series from Star Wars coming into this one, and you have a kind of like a Mandalorian taste there, right there at the beginning, which we don't have anymore. Only in the first seconds there at the Jedi Temple, the Mandalorian thing kind of like style, and then it disappears into nothing. We don't get any other kind of like Mandalorian stuff again, except that first scene there in Kenobi. As far as I'm concerned, judging from number 1 and 2 of the series that we have seen so far. And then we suddenly find out that Kenobi is working in the salmon fillet business. I think it's a salmon, kind of like salmon stuff, and he's just cutting meat there, or salmon or fillets. And that's cool to see a main character that we know doing an ordinary job. That's a cool thing to see. He's not a monk, he's not hiding like Luke Skywalker. And let me say, by the way, about Obi-Wan there, it's not about hiding. It's so cool. It's actually kind of like a spy thing there, combined with stormtroopers and the Inquisitors. And that's just a cool story in general. And Obi-Wan is not hiding at all. He's running out on the streets. He doesn't care about if he's getting recognized, even by the Jedi that we saw in the first episode there, although he died. But too bad for you. But Obi-Wan, it's not a hiding story that Disney is wanting to sell us there. It's a cool story as far as I'm concerned, judging from the first and second episode. Then we got the Inquisitors coming that we already saw in the trailer there. That was cool, and then we got to know the Inquisitors, how they react, what their feelings are, why they are doing the missions, what they are thinking about the missions, which I said at the beginning how each of the individual Inquisitors feel actually. And then we got pissed off, and then we got the Jedi, then we got the Force, and Obi-Wan is using the Force for the first time to save Leia, and that's so cool to see. Although it makes me think, how did Obi-Wan manage to get from that far from the high ground there so fast down to Leia? I mean, he was obviously not jumping because he's old now, and maybe he forgot some of those Jedi tricks there, and he didn't really rely on the Force for the last 10 years. So it made me think, how the hell did he get so fast downstairs when he was literally fighting 5 seconds before saving Leia? Some people there, some bounty hunters trying to kill him. So that's kind of like a plot hole that I'm seeing there, but it's the Force. So, and then at the end, Obi-Wan gets told for the first time that Anakin is still alive, and that was so cool to see, because the character was acting so well to that scene, to realize after 10 years the biggest nightmare that Obi-Wan has, and that biggest nightmare is still alive, but he has no idea how he's going to look like. And that makes me think about another plot hole there. I mean, Obi-Wan was hiding on Tatooine, but do they have no newspapers on Tatooine? Because, you know, the Empire was ruling back in those times. At certain parts you can at least still see some stormtroopers there. And so they don't have a newspaper to say, well, for the last 10 years, well, you know, Darth Vader is alive and he is kicking ass and the Emperor is still there. And that's a crucial thing, actually. That makes me think, well, that's a weird plot hole, actually. Because the Empire was ruling the galaxy after Episode 3. And Obi-Wan has no newspaper thing on Tatooine going on. Kind of like hard to believe for me. But that's the way how it is. I don't want to judge here. I really would like to have Qui-Gon Jinn off-spin voice there in Obi-Wan's head for the later episodes. That would be pretty cool to think, to see actually. I would love to see that. So therefore in general, and at the end of course we see the first glimpse of Darth Vader actually in his Bacta tank, still floating currently in the Bacta tank there. And we just see the camera moving from a close up and the camera's going way back that we were all kind of like watching on the TV and we wanted to see if there's any damage there going on Vader, and then it stops, and that's a cool thing. And I'm really looking forward to episode number 3. I call them episodes now because they somehow seem to be like episodes for me. And I'm really looking forward to number 3, 4, 5 and 6. And as far as I'm concerned, the next episode will drop on Wednesday, and that's a cool thing. I mean, you can argue about 7, 8, 9, about Solo. Don't argue about Rogue One. That's a cool movie. Don't argue about this one. But, you know, Kenobi is the better Book of Boba. You know, maybe not as good as The Mandalorian, but we will have to see how that Kenobi series will go. But it's so close behind Mandalorian from the epicness. It's not Obi-Wan hiding at all. It's just a cool story. And all of those characters are well written. There's no single character, as far as I'm concerned, who sucks right now at this state of that we are all right now in. So therefore, I'm really looking forward to that. And if you happen to be a Star Wars fan, I like you. So therefore, that was my critique about the first 2 episodes of Kenobi, a Star Wars series on Disney+. So see you very soon, and I'm looking forward to the other episodes. So